Hello, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is the first of four sessions of Swords of the Serpentine, which is the latest GUMSHOE game. This is from Kevin Culp and Emily Dressler. Dressler, I think. I have to make sure on that name. But this just arrived recently, and it's a pretty thick book and very nicely laid out. I've played a lot of GUMSHOE over the years. I'm notorious for liking and not liking some GUMSHOE. Ken Hite called me out at Origins one year about that, which was a delight. But it's a game I do enjoy as a system, and I've come to appreciate it more over the years. So we have four players. We've got some pre-gens they've kind of started to choose from. They're going to be tweaking tonight, but we're going to start by talking about what this game is, how we're going to be playing it, our tone, and then safety, which is our CATS document to start out the discussion. So this is a mystery game, but our characters are in a fantasy urban setting, and they're as much problem solvers as they are, detectives and mystery solvers. Those two things kind of go together. You are adventurers trying to make a living in a city which is bigger than you are. It is huge. You are in a city that is a bustling cosmopolis. In this fantasy world, it's 100,000 people in this city. The city is called Eversink, and it is blocks and canals and rivers running through it and hundreds of bridges. It is a huge fantasy Venice that is almost like an island unto itself. There is a mainland nearby that a river kind of empties into. We are in that transition point between the sea and the fresh water of the river. But this is a land founded by a goddess. So we have the Church of Denari that has staked out its claim, and people have moved here and created this kind of city-state unto itself. It is called Eversink. That is its sort of, how do I put this? It's more of its nickname than its actual name. I have to look up what its actual name is because I just referred to it, Eversink, because all the buildings are always sinking. And then people build more on top of it. So it is constantly falling and being rebuilt up on top of it. It is a fantasy setting that is predominantly human. There are non-humans at the margins or as things outside, but like a lot of these sort of classically sort of human-focused games, those are sort of the unknowns. Most of our characters are human, and they have concerns about magic. We have sorcerers in the setting, but sorcerers are powerful and dangerous. So people who practice sorcery have to be careful about how blatantly they do that. So people kind of worry about those things. It is a city filled with statues because there are ghosts. And if you don't have a statue built in some way, shape, or form to mark your funerary passing, then you stick around as a ghost. And so that's the primary way that people honor the dead in this place. And it's another feature besides the many bridges, the boats going through, the statues. These are all the features that we will see here. In terms of existing fantasy literature that are my touchstones for this, I would say the old Thieves' World series, Robert Asprin, that whole long anthology series of fantasy novels. I'd say the more recent Craft sequence by Max Gladstone, a very urban-focused sort of fantasy stories. I would say most classically Fafford and Grey Mouser and the Lankmar stories, and then also the more recent Tabat quartet, Beasts of Tabat, and so on, also has a really interesting urban location and focus. Our characters Our heroes, they might be a little bit on the gray rather than white side of things, but they're generally good.
You can keep that. No, no.
Oh.
You.
Second, you want to mute? Thank. So that's the basic of our concept. Our approach, what we're going to be doing today. I've put together a set of pre-gens, and we're going to have the chance to fill in the names, choose some details. You'll also have the chance, if you want to shift around some points to today or next session, you're going to be welcome to do that. If you want to change the groups that you might have allegiance to or are enemies with, you can also make those choices. We're going to talk about what the group is like and establish relationships. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the GUMSHOE mechanics, what that means in terms of this particular version of GUMSHOE. And then we're going to hard frame into a mystery. And I'm going to put you in the mix with the patron coming to you, asking for help. In terms of tone, this is a game that is slightly gritty. While there's high weirdness in the setting, our characters are grounded generally. They have real world desires and problems, and they're always short on money. So that is a feature of this. And we can talk if people want to after the safety discussion, if there's anything people want to bring up as tonal touchstones that they want to hit. But let me then lead that into our safety discussion. We are using a layered set of safety tools. These are intended to help support one another. There are things that are going to fall through the gaps. We're going to try and avoid that. And we're going to try to handle them as best we can. We have first our CATS discussion, which we're doing now, kind of presenting the basics so we're all kind of on the same page. Then the second thing we have is lines and veils. Hard lines are things that we do not want to see in the game at the table. It's an element we don't want to play with. And then a veil is anything that we would fade to black on, or if it were to occur, we would elide it. We would be mentioned, but it would be off screen. I want you to take a chance as we're going through this character creation process. Take a look at that. Add anything you want as a hard line or a veil. This is a living document. It doesn't necessarily mean that once we've got it set here today, that it's going to be just these. People can add to this as we go along. So this establishes some touchstone points for us to work from. The next thing that we have to support that is, of course, the X card. And the X card is being used either saying X card or doing the gesture to mark out material that we find objectionable, that we find problematic, that we find offensive, that we find wildly off tone. These are all reasons to X card something. And when you X card something, you don't have to defend that choice. You don't have to answer for why. You're welcome to, but you don't have to explain. The only question you might get from me as a game facilitator is, how far back do we need to cut? How far back do we need to go to change something? If a player needs a clarification, they should write to me, the GM, and I'll talk to the person who's brought up the X card privately, but we don't want to call people out or put people on defensive once they've used the X card at the table. The X card is also something that if the first couple of times it happens, you're okay with it, but then you're not. It is absolutely legit to X card it later. You never lose your opportunity to do that. Things may build up and become a problem. One place I do want to ask all of us to keep an eye out for as an opportunity to use the X card is if we're playing and maybe we've started to lean towards a line or a veil that we've established, and maybe we haven't picked up on it. X card is a good chance to kind of mark that and for us to recalibrate where we're at with that. So X card is intended to help us catch things that maybe we missed through lines and veils. The last sort of top layer of our safety tools is the open table, open door policy, which means that if you have to step away or leave for whatever reason, emotional, physical, something's going on, your house is flooding, my Florida people. These are all reasons to step away. You don't have to explain yourself. It'd be great if you could tell us to be right back or not, but you're not obliged to do that. The add-on to that is if we get done with this session and you walk away and go, that is not the game I thought it was. That is not a game I want to play for whatever reason. You have the absolute right to say, I thank you much. I don't think I want to come back for the rest of the series. And no one will ask a question. No one will blame you. It is absolutely fair to do that. You should never stay in a game that you are not enjoying. You should always be willing to step away and leave. All of those things are out there for us to use. So those are our safety tools. Now, one of the things about this is a game with some procedural elements, but we're going to try to give ourselves enough time for role play, for RP in this. I do have a romance matrix there on the safety and resources tab that if you want to say whether your character it would be okay with romantic scenes or interactions with PCs, with NPCs, or if you just want to ask first, all of those are fair to say. You can mark that as you wish to. You'll also notice below that romance matrix, I do have a link to a map. This is a map from somebody's World Anvil site, which was very well done. So I'm linking us to that because it was pretty cool. And then below that is our roller for the game, which you're welcome to use the online roller. The only dice that this game uses are D6s. You will need at most 2 of them. So if you want to roll at home, you are also welcome to do that. All right. I'm going to take a slug of my delicious tea with honey because I also ran this afternoon. So gonna get my throat ready. So that's a lot of me talking here. What I'd like to do now is take a look at the PCs tab and confirm choices about what people have taken for their what for their archetype. We'll hide the other columns. And I'll also, if you'd like, answer some questions about abilities or what things mean, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the GUMSHOE system as it stands here in Swords of the Serpentine. So, Keith, I believe that you were leaning into our sorcerer thief type.
Even more so since I found out about the sorcery and corruption. That sounds fantastic. Yes.
Okay. So you're going to take that character. Harry, what are you thinking?
I was leaning towards the warrior sentinel.
Okay.
If nobody else wants that.
Let me come around and check on everything. Robbie, what about you?
I was thinking about the Sentinel.
Okay. And Brandon, what about you? You're muted.
I think the straight up warrior would be great.
Okay. So it looks like we've got everybody has chosen a different archetype. I'm going to go ahead and hide the other ones. And then I'm going to come around and talk about like tweaks and things like that. So let's hide the sorcerer. And then the thief.
Not even caring about the attack advantage and just come last face.
So what you're going to tweak here is I'd like you to come up with a name for your character, and maybe if you want to take a look at the adjectives that are there for your character. These are basically descriptors. If there are any of those that you want to change, you can do that. We've got a set of drives for your character. And if you want to tweak those, you're also welcome to do that. So let me, if you want to find a picture, I've got that a big box there that you can drop an image in right now. let me talk while you're taking a look at the character, maybe thinking about details, names, things like that, about how the game works and what you're actually seeing. In GUMSHOE, there are two sets of abilities. There are investigative abilities and there are general abilities. And your investigative abilities are the things that when you go into a scene, you're going to use that to kind of consult and see if they apply and use those to get clues. You're going to ask whether a particular investigative ability is applicable to the situation. If you have a rating at all in an investigative ability, then you're good at it. And when you go into a scene and use that, you will generally get the information that's based around. If you would like further information, more details, you can ask whether making a spend from that pool, from that investigation pool, will get you more information. So, for example, Robbie has a 1 in command for an investigative skill. So, he might talk to some soldiers, but if they maybe give him basic information, he thinks that more might be given based on that, based on commanding them to do something or pushing them to give information, he can make a spend from that pool to potentially get more information. I'll say, yeah, that's applicable. I may also offer out, does anyone want to make a spend from a particular investigative ability? And then somebody can say, yeah, I'll make that spend. That doesn't reduce your ranks. It's just a temporary set of pool points that will refresh at the end of the adventure. The other thing that investigative abilities do is they can be used to essentially gain benefits. You can spend points from your pool to do extra stuff. That's one of the things that's on the rules notes tab there. It looks at each of the investigative abilities and talks about what you could do. For example, let's take the investigative ability Charm. Basically, Charm is kind of a schmoozing, talking with somebody investigative ability. But you could also spend points from your Charm pool to make a supporting character really like you. You could, make them trust you. For a big spend, you might turn an enemy over to your side. There are a lot of these additional ability things that are tied to each of those investigative pools. This is slightly different than most GUMSHOE games. In most GUMSHOE games, you have those investigative pools and you can spend them to find things, but then you can often spend a point to help you out with another general ability. This game spells out some other things that you can do with that. So take a look at your investigative abilities, and then on the rules notes, if you want to kind of cross-check and see, okay, what else can I do with this? That's an important thing. Investigative abilities, we never roll on those. They're just points spent and they happen. The other side of this are general abilities. These are the things that are contested. These are things that we're going to be rolling tests on. Generally, you'll be rolling against a difficulty that is set. The default difficulty for most things is 4. Whenever you make a test, you roll a d6 and you want to meet or beat that difficulty. So what the general ability points do and how they are used is you can spend points from your general ability before you go to make that roll, and it's added to that, and it will increase your success. So if you have a difficulty 4 test and you spend 3 points, you're automatically going to make the test. You're always going to succeed if you do that, and the difficulty is a 4. General abilities will have a chance to refresh a little bit. There'll be some refresh tokens that will be out there over the course of play as scenes go on that you can spend to refresh, like a scant few points of general abilities. But generally, like investigative abilities, they only refresh after an adventure finishes. If you have 8 points in a standard ability, Like for example, we have our sorcerer thief has 8 points in preparedness and bind wounds. There are some special abilities that you get. And if you mouse over, you'll see that they're, because you have an 8 in bind wounds, plenty of leeches pops up as a special ability. You can mouse over it. It gives a little bit of a rules description. For the full rules text, you can find that under rules notes. Basically, it's if you have 8 ranks in something besides health or morale, you get a special cool thing you get to do. Health and morale are your 2 damage tracks. They are used for physical damage and sort of mental, emotional, social damage, respectively. I think that's the biggest things that I kind of need to tell you now. Are there anybody have any questions about what things mean or how they're used off the top of your head right now as you're looking at your characters? Keith, what are the spheres that we have for your sorcerer there?
Was actually what I was about to ask.
Okay.
I don't see any to choose from, and I'm not sure if it's
Okay.
carte blanche or what.
Let's see here. So if we go down here. Yes, the sorcerer spheres. So let me turn. I thought I had put those in there for you. So right now, I will pull up the list of spheres. I thought I put those in there, but I did not. Let me grab them. So they've got a list of spheres, but these are very descriptor, general kinds of things. So we've got, aging, air, chaos, curses, fear, fire, plants, poison, serpent, shadow. Like there is a big list of them. I will at the break copy and paste that list onto one of these tabs, and you can choose those at the start. Let's see here. You have how many ranks in that? That's right. I'm actually going to shift around a couple of your points here to get this right. You'll have 2 spheres that you'll get to choose because you have level 2 of corruption. I've just switched that around to get that set. But I will put that up for you, and you get to make those choices. Basically, what you can do with sorcery is for each of your spheres, you'll decide whether it can attack health or it can attack morale. And the points that you spend from sorcery can be used as an attack. And you kind of choose the form it is. And then you can also use sorcery to kind of do other things that fit within that milieu of that sphere. So the way it describes it in our thing is basically with the sorcery general ability, you can use it to attack. You can use it to create a maneuver. Basically, maneuvers are things like, oh, I want to knock the sword out of his hand, or I want to blind somebody, or I want to cause an effect. You can describe any kind of regular unopposed thing as coming from your sorcery, or you can use an investigative ability or spend and describe what you're doing as coming from your sorcery. And then corruption, that investigative ability basically allows you to do big magic with your thing, like affect a bunch of targets, do exceptional damage, do area effect, create a non-standard kind of unique spell, curse a foe, or create a maneuver that isn't already covered by an ability that you possess. So there are some options with that. It is very open-ended for you. Other people have questions? Robbie.
Just in terms of points, I mean, the points were already distributed. Are like in the investigative abilities, we'll have a total of 11 points, I think.
I think
For
that
them.
is right.
Okay. And then it's like 30. I guess there are 3 that are divided among allegiances, and I think something like 30 among the general abilities. Then.
Yep, I think those are the numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but you also don't have stats. So these are
Right.
really the kind of covering everything. Let me see if there are mouse overs for each of the abilities to kind of give you the most basic sense of what that is. There. Let me talk about briefly what the allegiances are in the game. I'm going to run through those groups just real quick, and you can decide, if you want to keep the allegiances that you have chosen there as well. Allegiances in this game function like investigative skills, but it's about you, if you're going to an ally, it's about you going to an ally to get them to help you out, to get you information or to find something or whatever. If it's an enemy, it's about like talking to people who hate them as well, who might be inclined to assist you or finding out through your contacts that way. The allegiances, the ancient nobility are the great landed old houses of Eversink. The Church of Denari is, as you can imagine, the established order of churches. It includes the inquisitors and those who oversee sort of orthodox religious practice within the city. You have the city watch, who are exactly what's written on the tin. They are the guards and the watch and so on. There are commoners, essentially the common folk of Eversink. There are the Guild of Architects and Canal Watchers. This is the big, old, weird secret society guild that is sort of the most powerful, but also the most esoteric and hidden. There's the Mercanti. These are all the other guilds. These are the new money guilds. You have the mercenaries. There are a lot of mercenary companies that work in Eversink, but also use this as a base of operations to head out other places. There are the monstrosities. These are the non-humans at the fringes of Eversink society. There are the outlanders. These are the enclaves of foreigners and foreign persons and ethnic groups and such that live in Eversink. There are the sorcerers cabals. These are the kind of below the radar, keeping out of people's eyesight, practitioners of magic. There are the Thieves Guild. And then there is the Triskidane. You may have seen that on some of that. Triskidane is the city administration. They are the civic government. So let me kind of come around and have you tell me if you have any questions about your character. You can I'll answer that. But also, if you have a sense of who they are, I'd like to hear it. So, Robbie, you are first on the character keeper order here. So tell us who your character is, how you are envisioning them.
All right. So I am Folk Payne, a sentinel. I think to fully envision, we probably need to see like our group, how they're gonna come together in terms of exactly how I want to play Folk. But I can tell you that he's very detail oriented, very suspicious, very inquisitive. I think all of those kind of dovetail nicely, very precise. I imagine physically he the detail oriented goes to his appearance. He's always
Okay.
looking very very clean, very put together, and takes, I think, a certain amount of pride in his appearance. And he I don't think he's really big, but he is intimidating.
Okay.
I think he doesn't smile very much. He doesn't laugh very much. He's pretty serious and down to business.
How old are you imagining him? Are we talking a fairly young, serious man or an older person who has seen some shit?
I think I think he's young.
Okay.
But he's well, I looked down at some of what was supplied for his gear. I think the most interesting thing he's carrying is the dried hand of his father, which was severed after he was convicted for spreading corruption, and that kind of scarred Folk, and he feels kind of guilty for that. So in terms of his drives and what pushes him, one of the things is atoning for grievous mistakes, especially for failing to save my father.
Okay.
And so he's always looking for opportunities where he feels like this would somehow help to make up for various mistakes of his past. But he also has a drive to punish the iniquitous.
Okay.
So he's very judgmental, I think.
So it isn't necessarily that your father was a sorcerer. It's that he fell to corruption and you regret that you weren't able to save him from that fall.
I should have realized it sooner. I think I was too caught up in myself, in my own pursuits, and failed to kind of notice that, which maybe was one reason why I notice a lot of things now. It's like I'm always reminding myself I have to always take note of my surroundings, especially for corruption and iniquity.
So now you have the investigative ability spirit sight, which means that you can see ghosts and spirits and things like that. Do you think that's something that has been with you all your life? Or do you think it's something that happened after your father fell?
No.
Or what do you think?
Yeah, it is related to my father.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to do. I don't know. I don't quite understand it, but it happened with my father. I think I fear that may be corruption itself that has been implanted on me, and that somehow through this ordeal with my father and his death, that something got kind of planted to me. I think it has been useful, and I will tap into it, but I think I'm also a little bit wary of that ability.
Probably not something you talk about with people outside your immediate group.
Definitely not. No.
So I think we see kind of like why you have an enemy in like the organized sorcerers cabals. That kind of makes sense. You have allies in the church and allies in the civic government. Do you think that's from like your family, or do you think that you've worked with one or the other of those?
I think I'm looking to maybe get a more legitimate position for myself.
Okay.
And I think that I think either the church or the civic government may be ways of kind of making my way up in the world, and like with a kind of position that would give me more resources to go after the iniquitous and to make up for my past failings.
So why is it now, as we kind of start this game, that you're kind of on the outs Like, why aren't you in an honored position? Why aren't you, doing a regular job? What is it that has caused that?
I don't think he knows it, but I think it's his personality.
Okay.
I think people in the church and the Triskadane are maybe realize that I have some abilities, but I don't think that they're sure that I can successfully integrate myself into those organizations. I don't have the soft skills. I don't have
Okay.
the people skills.
I think that sounds good. Okay. That gives us a good sense of who you are. When we come back and we'll kind of maybe try to figure out a relationship to one or two of the other players to build some connections. Next, let's come to Brandon. Brandon, tell us about your character.
So my character is Bronwyn. She doesn't go by last name. Often people just call her Red because of her hair, which is striking. And she's kind of she's not a huge woman, but she's tall and lithe muscle. That often gets a very fairly strong reaction to her right away, even before people have met her, either good way or stereotyping her. She is, as does her friendly demeanor. She's pretty much has a smile and a handshake for anybody who doesn't spit on her. A lot of people take that as a sign that she's weak, frankly, and except for those on which she has proved the contrary. She has an old two-handed sword that, if anybody here knows swords, is of a style that they haven't made in ever. This is like this is an antique that someone found, on the wall of a mansion that, was being sold off with a bunch of other stuff, and evidently she picked it up because no Norse swordsmith worth anywhere in Eversink or the places that you know of would make a sword in this style. It's just the grips are a little funny, the balance is a little different than the way people like to. None of the teachers here would ever use a sword like this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the only one she ever has, and a big knife to go in her sash. She is something that very few people know, is that she is much, much, much older than she looks. She appears to be in her early 30s. But sometimes over a lot of alcohol, she will recall random factoids from 200, 300 years ago. That sound like first person things. And then the next day she'll forget that she mentioned anything like that. She certainly doesn't make a thing out of it.
Do people assume that you're local to Eversink? Is that the assumption, or do people assume that you've come here from somewhere else?
Her coloration isn't that of an Eversink native.
Okay.
So people assume that she came here, although she's been here a while. It's like she certainly didn't, just hop off the boat. She has a reputation both in the government and in some of the poor quarters of working for cheap when the cause is right. When it's someone is being screwed over. Especially
and working how? Like what does she do? I mean, is she a bodyguard? Is she like a righter of wrongs? Is she a mercenary? She all of the above?
She's done mercenary work because, well, one has to eat and drink, especially drink. But But she tends to work at mercenary stuff only for long enough, and to make some money and then spend it for a while. And that's when it's gone again. She looks for paying work. She sometimes, she has worked, she's been known to do work, as I said, as a righter of wrongs, where, someone in the marketplace has basically said, thieves have been stealing from us, and it's like, and we can't pay you anything, but we can feed you, for a month or something like that. And she's like, okay, that's good enough. She's good at fighting, and she's good at talking to people, and she'll pretty much, she's ready to give anybody the benefit of the doubt at least once.
Okay, awesome. I think that gives us a good sense of who you are. Let us come on to Keith. Keith, tell us about your character and how you're going to pronounce that name.
Ogstreth, the perspicacious.
Ogstreth.
It's pronounced just like it's spelled.
Okay.
Ogstreth is old. I'm trying to find a picture of someone sufficiently old. Like, there's some folks that look younger than they are and some folks that look older. And then there's Ogstreth the perspicacious, who looks like he probably shouldn't be still tottering around, but he is deceptively nimble. He has been in the Church of Denari for quite a long time, or I guess I should say was. I'm thinking just before play starts, probably, I got a mandatory retirement letter, which I'm guessing is why I have Allied Church of Denari 1 and Enemy Church of Denari 1, which I just love, is that touch. And I think he's kind of been like poking his nose and his hands and other body parts in where they probably shouldn't be, and just, what'll happen if I do this? What'll happen if I do that? And there's probably other people that have achieved his level of advanced age and did not get a mandatory retirement letter, but Ogstreth has gotten one, and is trying to look at it as an opportunity. Wants to spite the church, but is also like really pious, but also wants to spite the church. But this is a chance to go out and do some adventures, take some risks, make up for lost time for things that they haven't done before.
What did he do within the church?
What did people do in this church? Just normal churchy things?
Yeah, but do you think he was like more of a monk, or more of a temple administrator, or an illuminator, or a librarian? What kind of things?
I think he
could have been a healer too, given your stats.
That's true. I think he bounced around a lot. Like, they tried to have him hold services and it didn't go well. And they tried to have him mentor the younger folks in the church and it didn't go well. And they tried to have him do the illumination and the copying of text and it didn't go well. But I think to Brandon's point, it is like, yeah, that's probably where he kept bouncing back to, right? Is, well, he's a good healer. And like, I almost feel like it was sort of a hobby though, not, one of those things where you don't want to monetize your hobby because then it's no fun. So it wasn't his job to heal, but just like, I've had that happen to me before and I can fix you up. We just need a poultice. Do you have any live toads that I could grind up?
And one of the things is because the sort of the original build, I forgot to put some points into sorcery. You may want to shift a couple of points around to have that in case you ever want to call on that for a combat effect as a general ability there. Just in case. Yeah. Okay. You can use the corruption to do cool things. But the sorcery, if you want to do some basic things with it, you may want to put a couple of points maybe from the morale or something else over there. We can talk about how you might want to swap that around.
So morale is also from the same pool, and
everything that's in general ability is all from the same pool there.
Okay, yeah, we can figure that out.
Yeah,
that does seem like a good thing.
So do you think there was there a thing that that like was the final straw that led to this, or was it just a long term? Was it somebody clearing out the things and going, oh, we need to get this guy moved on?
I think there had to be a last straw, and I'm wondering about the corruption. It happens when?
So what happens is you can use that corruption as an ability, an investigative kind of thing, but you can also use it to empower spells and make them kind of badass. And when you do that, you can try to internalize it, which there's a role to do that, and sometimes it changes people, but you can also externalize it, which can freak out everybody and cause problems around you.
That's what I was wondering about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think probably it was something like that. Like he's poking around and trying some sort of spell, and like, gosh, well, I think there is a little grove of like very specifically manicured trees inside one of the more prestigious buildings that the church owns, that one of the higher ups, that's his refuge, and he goes in there and meditates. And the backlash from the spell just mutated these trees into awful abominations of nature. And once it was traced back to Ogstreth, that was that the mandatory retirement letter came quickly after that.
Tell me about, I know the gear, if you're going to stick with the gear choices there, the constant whispering, do you think that's a thing that you're going to play with here?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
And this church assigned acolyte that's with you, are they kind of trailing along behind the group kind of thing, or are they like, did they manage a little home for you somewhere?
I feel like if she's around all the time, I'm going to forget about it, but it does seem like that could be fun though.
Okay.
Like, having her around, and I am wondering why she's still there once I've gotten unceremoniously removed from the church, but we could play to find out.
Okay. You also have an ally in this Guild of Architects and Canal Watchers, which is sort of the weird, highly placed. What do you think that's about?
So that was originally City Watch, and I changed it when you described them. So
Okay.
let me know if that's not.
No, that's perfect.
Because I was like, this group sounds amazing, and it seems like they're the kind of people that are also interested in esoterica, and like, this isn't necessarily important knowledge, but it's fun knowledge. And I think that's a pretty recent allyship, if that works, where it's Ogstreth is now poking his nose around Eversink at large, rather than just the holdings of the Church of Denari.
Mhm.
And the guild sort of found him. And I think it's more of like, they're kind of overseeing to make sure he doesn't do anything he really shouldn't do.
Okay.
But like, maybe also encouraging him like a little kid brother, maybe to them.
Yeah, I like that. All right, I think that gives us a pretty good sense of who you are. Let us come to Harry. Harry, who is your character?
My character is Orsino Garibaldi, of the once powerful noble family, the Garibaldis, who have seen better days. They only have like 5 stories left in their mansion over in Alder Hill,
Mhm.
or Alder Hall. And what drew me to it was a cheery pessimist who also happens to be, you know, a thorough planner, insightful, pious, and proud. I took a couple points in nobility to show that he still has some clout within the noble families and stuff that he can use to get things done. The Garibaldis, he's the 3rd son. So the first son is the one who inherits. The second son is making a career in the military. The 3rd sons in the Garibaldi family, they have a deal with the Denari Church that once he reaches the age of 40, he has to become a full-time inquisitor. So he's 39 and a half, and it's breathing down his neck. until the age of 40, he's been mainly kind of a wastrel. But he still helps out the family connection through the church, which is a very old priest by the name of Salvador Samari. He's kind of like the family, kind of like it's the priest that was assigned to the family. So he's known him since he was a kid. He's got an ally in monstrosities and an enemy in monstrosities, and I kind of rolled them into a little bit of a combination. The ally is Elvira Augustina Dominici, and she's a vampire. And the enemy monstrosities is the rest of the Dominici bloodline hates him. And through the use of his spirit sight and no monstrosities, he kind of specializes in dealing with the bloodsuckers in the city.
And what do your older siblings think of you?
The eldest is definitely alienated. He's tired of having to shell out family money to get me out of scrapes, get me out of jail, which called damage caused in a bar fight, stuff like that. The second son, you don't really speak too much. He's almost always out on campaign. But whenever he gets back, he tries to find time to take him around for a good pub crawl.
Do you have any younger siblings?
I'm going to say probably the fourth is going to be a sister, and she's probably from the second or third wife of the father, and he dotes on her and takes care of her as much as he can. He's a functioning alcoholic, basically.
And he's lived for getting close to 40 years. Has he been married? Is he divorced? Is he celibate? Is he aromantic? Is he a man of the world? Has he traveled around? What has he done for since he came of age?
He's mainly just stayed in the city.
Okay.
And he's had affairs through the years, but when he met Elvira, even though she's a vampire, they have an awkward, it's not unrequited. It's just that neither one knows exactly what to do with the other, since one's a vampire and the other's going to be a church inquisitor. So
why hasn't she killed you?
I'm going to think it's I probably spared her when I was going after another vampire, and I think it might have been I'm thinking like The Godfather, the Thunderbolt is when he saw her, and the fact that I had her dead to rights, and then just offered her a hand up and walked her out of the building or something along those lines. It kind of made her a little bit inquisitive about him.
Do you think? How many people know about your relationship with Elvira?
Probably nobody in the church yet, hopefully.
Okay.
And I would say the rest of the Dominicis have an inkling, and that's why they're out for my blood.
Okay. All right. I think that gives us a good sense. What I'd like to do now is go around and get a relationship connection to essentially the character that on the character keepers to your left, and then to the right, with a wraparound on that. So let me come back to Folk. Folk, how did Orsino get in the way of something you were doing, and how did you come to an amicable resolution of that sort of interference? You're muted.
Wonder if it has something to do with the Church of Denari, which is an ally for both of us. Um,
Were you trying to do some kind of monster hunting, and maybe Orsino, how do I put this? Vamp blocked you or something? Or got in the way when you're going to do something, or took the prize before you could do it?
I like the last. I like the idea that there was perhaps some type of pursuit of a monstrosity that the church was very interested in resolving, and that we were both on the case. And yeah.
How did you resolve that amicably? I mean, when you kind of did it come to blows, or were you a person who would kind of like let your senior have it? What do you think?
Well, I wonder if Orsino gave me something to make up for it.
Orsino, what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good. Does wealth have much use for folk, or
For all of you, wealth is good, because right now you kind of start out at the baseline. We'll talk about wealth and lifestyle in a bit.
yeah, well, maybe I gave him a small share of one of the Garibaldi's salt lagoons.
Okay.
It's actually, salt. The city kind of runs on salt. It's one of the biggest resources they do, and it'll set it up so that folk will have something to fall back on if the hunting doesn't work out quite well.
I think that seems good. And then Falk, I'm actually going to kind of do this a little bit different order than I originally said, but Ogstreth, you had heard a weird rumor about Ogstreth before you met him. What was that weird rumor?
About Ogstreth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a rumor about his removal from the church.
What are people saying?
I think that people are saying that he I think that he was found I think I mean, he was found stealing a precious church relic. It had fallen on some type of I don't know. I mean, I don't think people understood what exactly happened, but there was like
this is the rumor had that he went and stole the Grail of Denari or something, some relic like that. This is one of the stories that you've heard. Okay.
Yeah, and that the church could never, seems like they could never definitively prove it, but that they forced him out.
Okay.
as a result of that.
Ogstreth, do you think that's true or not true?
I was just borrowing it.
Okay. Perfect. Let's come to Bronwyn. Bronwyn, folk bailed you out of a bad situation. What do you think happened, and how did they get you out of that? You're muted.
The thing that immediately comes to mind, if it's bailed out literally, is somebody picked a fight with me in a tavern, and it ended up in a general brawl with the tavern keeper pressing charges against all the people who were too drunk to flee, which included me.
Okay.
I was not too drunk to fight, because that's not a thing. But I was too drunk to figure out which was the right way home, and the watch caught me before I could get very far. Next time, I'll just get a room in the tavern, and that way I'll know where my bed is. And I think that's what folk bailed me out of.
And
The question is why?
oh yeah, folk, why would you have bailed Bronwyn out? Just chivalry, or did you know her from before or something?
I think it's because of Bronwyn doesn't seem like she's from Eversink.
No,
I think it was the red hair. I think that my mother had red hair. Doesn't really look anything, in terms of physique or anything like Bronwyn, but I think the red hair matches, and so that there's that family that vague family resemblance to my mother.
I like that. And then Bronwyn, you've been in the city a long time. In Orsino's younger days, you and he, there was a place that you both gathered at. It was a tavern or a hotel or a site. That when he was in his young 20s, you crossed paths. What was that place, and why is it no longer around?
Oh, let's see. I'm going to say that the place was called the Silver Dragon's Wager. Or just the Dragon, as people knew it, because there weren't a lot of taverns named after dragons. It is no longer around because some bastard bought the land out from underneath the tavern and had it demolished to add to their mansion. Expanded out. Yeah, some merchant, merchant decided that his family now raided, raided a grand house, as it were. Not old nobility here, but they knocked it down, and the only thing that's the sign is still there.
Okay.
Just the post, just on a post by the road, because it was so much part of the landscape. But the actual tavern got blitzed. People were pretty put out about it.
Nice. Yeah, I imagine a little bit of resentment as history of the city is washed away.
Not that anybody spits on that merchant's house every single time they go by. Or
fair enough. Ogstreth. You have a recurring,
Oh, this is big.
maybe slightly nightmarish dream that involves Bronwyn. What is that dream? What happens in that dream?
I'm trying to think something about, like, there's something about the aging thing. Like, I don't actually know, right? That isn't a thing I would know about.
But you've been around long enough. If you've met Bronwyn in the past, I think there is maybe you have at least some suspicion. Does that seem fair to you, Brandon?
Oxtred's old enough to know that Bronwyn doesn't show. Yeah, there's something strange there. You don't talk about these things because, unless you're ready to make an accusation or something. And Bronwyn doesn't seem to make any reference to it at all, not to hide it or anything like that. As I said, when she's in her cups, you and she have probably talked about things that happened, 50 years ago. And she goes, "Oh yeah. Oh, you're the guy with the limp." And it's like, who remembers that, the Duke's, lieutenant had a limp? That's so, that, everybody just assumes that Bronwyn is the daughter of some Sky Isles trader who got drunk and missed her boat, but better.
So what do you think? What do you think your dream involves?
I think it's one of those like dream logic dreams where it's like you're in one place, but it's also another place at the same time. And like, it's not even like the same thing every time, but it's just a series of dreams where I realize throughout the dream, like, I'm at a tavern and ordering a pint and having a laugh with the barkeep, and then I realize, oh, the barkeep is Bronwyn. Okay, weird. I didn't notice that before. And also, the person listening to my story also turned out to be Bronwyn when I look at them, but when I look back at the barkeep, that's not Bronwyn anymore. And like, just a whole alternate Eversink populated by unchanging, sometimes Bronwyn people.
Nice. And Folk Pain reminds you of someone from your past. Why is that? And why is that significant?
What was Folk's age again?
He's pretty young.
In his like maybe mid-20s.
I'm glad you specified young, because I was like, what's young to me has changed. As I
Yes.
get older. Anyone 1 year younger than me is very
Maybe.
reminds me of someone. I think there was an acolyte many years back, physically quite different than Falk, but the mannerisms, it's like the way that Folk wears the serious dour just way of being, like almost a suit of clothes. It was like someone else wearing that, this acolyte who had something so sorrowful happen in her past and could never get it together to speak about it, and eventually just completely broke one day and ran wild and ran into the brackish water surrounding Eversink and was never seen again.
Oof, nice.
So don't do that.
No.
Folk. Whatever is holding you down, find a healthier outlet for it.
Orsino. At some point when you were interacting with Ogstreth, just you happen to have taken something from him. What is it you took, and why haven't you kind of been able to give it back?
Maybe it was a scroll, and mainly because it had slightly heretical writings in it, and I just didn't want him to go down the wrong path. And I thought he must have just, forgotten that he had this. He's old, he forgets. Something along those lines, because I like the man, so I don't want to see the church, bind him up.
Yeah, you've tucked away this heretical scroll. Don't necessarily want to throw it away, because it is his, but let me ask the sort of the rumor question now for you. Before you met Bronwyn, you heard a rumor about them. What was that rumor?
Would the aging thing be part of the rumor, or is that still quite hidden? Or
It's up it could be, or it could be something different.
Oh, do you know what you've just done?
I know. Maybe the rumor is that she's
So excited.
she might be an avatar of a small god or an old god, and that's why a lot of people give her a wide berth.
Okay. Does that work for you, Brandon? All right. That gives us some connections. That gives some ties together for characters. We're going to take our first break here. I usually take 10 minutes for this first break. We're going to take 10, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to throw the patron at you, and we're going to get started on this mystery and get rolling. So I'm going to pause recording, take 10, and we'll be back. So one of the interesting things about Swords of the Serpentine is this idea of lifestyle and wealth. And at the start of a new campaign, you're kind of at the default level for this, that you're not completely out of money, but you're probably fairly tapped out. So you have to kind of like figure out how you're going to make it. Later on, as you play, when we go into a new adventure, you get to say what lifestyle you're living at. And they've got some ranks to choose, whether you're comfortable, whether you're, living the high life or whatever. And that can affect your reputation, how people perceive you, but it also means that you have to spend wealth to kind of sustain that lifestyle. It reminds me a little bit of Apocalypse World in that kind of like checking in to see, what people are doing there. I do want to give a second to see if we get Keith back here in a second, so I'm going to pause. So we've established that the four of you know one another. You've interacted, probably done some things with one another, and you are, as I say, not completely out of money, but kind of on the edge of it. And so you do have a reputation, perhaps, from a couple of things of being able to fix problems. Like, what do you think? I'm gonna get all these names here. Folk was the last like problem that the four of you solved.
The last problem that the four of us together solved. I think it was I think there was something that when you go down to the waters, there are all sorts of slimy things that are swimming around. Some of them are large slimy things, and I think I think that there was some kind of beast that had kind of come out into a kind of well-to-do neighborhood, that it was kind of hanging around, that they needed
Yeah.
it dealt with.
Yeah, you cleared out a canal squid, and people were pleased with it. You're able to dispatch that. When we take up at this point, Orsino, you have been contacted by a watch commander by the name of Antonio Teldi. And he has indicated that he has a task that requires a little bit of discretion. And he would like you, and he knows the name of your associates, to come and speak with him about undertaking a task. And we're going to kind of cut to you arriving at that Ogstreth. Like, where do you think this scene takes place? Are we in a cafe? Are we outside? Are we in a tavern? What kind of space do you think we're at right now?
So, hoping to look at the map. Okay. I want to do just like a little on one of the bridges. There's some tables and chairs set up, a little cafe.
Yeah. Where somebody's kind of running along the edges of it, bringing the tea and stuff, and
Oh, on
moving along.
Silver Bridge, the big one.
Okay. Yeah, like big enough that there are different industries
Yeah, that makes sense.
there. So the four of you have arrived, and Watch Commander Teldi is there, and he seems like a little nervous. You know that he works normally in the harbor approach. He works with the night watch there, and he will call out you, Orsino, when he arrives. He's like, Master Garibaldi, these are your compatriots?
Oh yes, the Ghost Ostrogoth, the tall Bronwyn, and my protege Fulk over here.
Good. I have need of his services, and the situation is outside of what I would normally call on the city watch to handle, my people to handle. So I have come to you because there have been a pair of murders in my district. Two very different and unusual murders in the harbor approach. I suspect that it is an inhuman monster that has committed these attacks, and I need someone to deal with it. My people are about keeping order, are about civic calm and policing, not dealing with monsters. So I'm hoping that I could get your quiet assistance in this matter, and I'll certainly be able to pay each of you significantly for your trouble out of my own personal funds, and out of a little bit of watch slush funds that I have access to. If you can find and slay this murderer, I can also provide you with, for the time being, a badge of office that might allow you to open some doors.
Coin and death, my favorite combination.
Yes.
What makes you think it was a monster? There's some pretty inventive killers around here.
how do I explain? The first murder was a very powerful, scarred warrior woman who was killed in her apartment, stabbed by more than half a dozen of her own weapons in the night. That happened a couple of nights ago. The other incident was a grain warehouse. And there was a young man who was working and was set on fire. Look, I have seen the crime scenes, and they do not look normal to me. I'm trying to keep this from getting out too publicly. If word is of a monstrous murderer in the area, people will panic. So I would like to keep this, like, handle this discreetly.
Well, Watch Commander Teldy, I appreciate you trying to keep it out of the public, but I am a little puzzled as to why you have not followed protocol. And I'm well acquainted with Watch Command protocol, especially in the Harbor Reach area. And this type of matter, I'm flattered that you would come to us with it, but I am curious as to why this wouldn't have been passed up the line, and why you are not handling it more more internally. There certainly are people in the watch commands around the city that would normally be handling something like this.
Are you trying to get his gut? Are you trying to raise his ire, or do you think you're just talking normally? Like, what's the mode here?
Well, I think I'm trying to get some more information out of him because is he just? I'm wondering, is he just afraid that he can't handle it, or why are they why is he kind of going outside of a structure that is kind of built for handling murders and things like this?
Sure. Do you want to make a spend from either taunt or laws and traditions or felonious intent?
I was thinking mainly of laws and traditions.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and make that spend. So you would just mark the 0 in the points next to it. He's definitely worried about something. One of the things you do know is, like, he does have the right to do this. He is the watch commander for it. But he probably shouldn't keep it quiet too much longer. Like he has a few days of discretion, but eventually he's got to let this come out. And he is definitely skating that margin, let us say. But he's definitely worried. He's definitely seen the scenes, and that's bothered him. Does that seem like fair info?
Yeah.
Ogstreth, I'm going to say that so wrong so many times. What do you think your reaction is to this conversation?
You wouldn't be the first acolyte to say it wrong. Oh, I'm listening intently. This is a fascinating opportunity for unheralded research.
He turns and looks at you, and he says, are you up to the task?
And is he looking specifically?
Yes, it looks at all of you. And
Oh, okay.
No, he's looking at your cane.
just me? Is this
Yeah,
an
no,
he's looking-
Asian thing?
He's looking at your bent over bag,
Listen,
bent back, and your
whippersnapper.
walking stick.
he says, no. I don't mean to disparage you at all. It seemed that Master Falk was expressing some reservations about willingness to undertake this task, and if you four aren't up to it, that's
Master
a different
Falk
matter.
We get
Does
paid the
his due
same,
diligence.
Well, hang on,
we get paid the same amount.
Brandon,
Okay,
let
good.
Keith finish first.
Master Falk merely does due diligence to make sure we're not walking into a situation unprepared.
I see. He'll look at you, Bronwyn, see if you.
We get paid the same amount, even if it turns out to be just some guy, right? Or two different guys.
If you dispatch, deal with the killer, you'll be paid. Yes, in the same amount,
All
if it
right.
is a monster or not.
I'm good.
Oh, I do hope it is a monster.
Yeah.
It'd be so much more interesting. Men kill men all the time, but something monstrous. And kind of elbows Orsino on that and says, how often do you get to rub shoulders with something monstrous?
What day is today?
With your shoulder, with your shoulder, better hope it's a pretty short monster. Oxford.
They come in all sizes, I'm assured.
Maybe you can rub your shoulder against his elbow.
Orsino, you were saying?
Oh, no, it's just like, what day is it? Something monstrous in the city, it just happens every other day. I mean, that's the kind of business that we're in. As he like nods towards Falk.
Yeah. Master
besides-
Falk, are you okay with this then?
Well, I'm whether it's a monster, whether it's a regular murder, it's all the same to me. If we can do the city some service by doing this and the pay is good. And he looks at Teldy and says, and if you put in a good word, I'm sure that the Triskadane would be perhaps interested in this kind of service that we're capable of doing, and it would not be bad for them to have some information once we've successfully dispatched this mission to let them know.
Allow me to say this too, my ambitious young friend. It would be well placed for me to be a friend to you in your path upwards, and I can certainly do that. And I would like to look on you positively.
And
Well
I
then.
think
Yes.
he'll smile. You'll get a little. He doesn't smile much, but he gets a little smile at this.
And he will say, "Well, I will. Here are the locations of the two murders. I will leave it to you to report back to me when you have more information or you have solved the problem. I hope the latter. That would make me feel better." And he will rise up from this bridge cafe and he will head off, leaving the four of you to figure out how you want to approach this. You have a stabbing of a woman warrior, and you have the burning of a grain warehouse. Garibaldi, you were kind of the lead person called in on this. As after this has been established and our watch commander has headed off, Teldy, what do you say to the group?
Well, as long as the man's pays and actually comes through with the money, it doesn't really matter. But it is two very widely different styles of killing, so it might be more than one adversary.
Could be. I want to know who of the women warriors here can actually afford more than a half a dozen weapons. I mean, if they got to me, they could only really stab me with 2, maybe 3 if you count an eating knife.
Is an unusual amount of weapons. Why don't you have that many, Bronwyn?
What do I need them for? I mean, it's just extra baggage to haul around with me.
Decorate your space, make it your own.
My space right now is a room over the tavern main hall. And it's a pretty good room, actually. And breakfast is just straight downstairs.
That does sound convenient.
It does. Yeah. Where's Jacqueline? Isn't that her name?
I'm sorry. Oh. Yes. Well, she didn't come because we're having tea at the cafe.
Right.
Why?
Must be nice to have a servant. I think I had a servant once or twice.
Tea? Are you sure? And lifts a cup and drinks the wine and holds it out. And Vladislav comes over and fills it with wine again.
Here you are, Master Garibaldi. Here's your wine.
Oh,
Thank
why
you.
not, Orsino? You're only young once.
Yeah. Hey, are you paying?
And I think Vladislav kind of doesn't care for pouring out wine for the others.
I nod for him to pass the wine to Bronwyn.
I'll down my tea really quick and just take out the cup.
Bronwyn roots around for a cup, and this is a cafe. They probably have a cup.
Passes the wine to you and then falls back into position behind Garibaldi,
Look at him.
grumbling.
Isn't he cute? I think he's adorable. I think.
Yes.
You know, almost as cute as you are.
Yeah, he's an outlander, but you can trust him. And
Oh, I don't know. Outlanders are nothing but trouble. Take it from me.
well, aren't you an outlander?
What's your point?
I can't tell. Are you flirting with me?
Folk. Like at what point do you decide that action is better than the wine drinking here, or do you remain to see what comes of this?
I actually think that Volk is already deciding that action is necessary. I think in particular, right, he kind of realizes we're in a public place. I don't trust the discretion of that watch commander. And I think being the detail-oriented fellow that he is, he's risen from the table and is kind of watching the watch commander as he walks away, sees if anybody might be following him, is watching around to see if we might be noticed by somebody that might be in the area.
Absolutely. So you will kind of head out down the bridge. You will see the watch commander does clearly heads back to the range. Why don't you roll me? Let's just kind of just an alertness test here. Why don't you roll me a d6?
Okay.
Sort of a
And-
passive test here for this one.
Okay. All right. Let me go. Let me go into my dice roller here. It is not doing any. I'll go
It's a
to it.
4. You got a 4.
Oh, I did. Okay.
So don't see anybody following him. Don't see anybody following you. He definitely moves with a degree of caution. Like he keeps an eye out for people behind him. Our watch commander Teldy definitely is worried about something. And I think that kind of is the feeling that you'll get after you follow him for a while. But he definitely heads back to his watch guard station.
Yeah, and I think seeing that, Folk would go back to the others and say, I think time's wasting. I think if you all have downed enough of your wine for now, at least.
Oh, it's fine. I'll take the bum.
How far away did you wander without anyone noticing?
I noticed. I just figured he'd come back.
So the question is, let's talk the meta here for a moment. Do we want to move the group to one of these locations? Do we want to split to the two locations? Do people want to do other things outside of that and then swing back? What do you think, Keith? Let me start with Ogstreth. What do you think his
Very
charge?
interested in the stranger death of the warrior stabbed to death with multiple weapons.
Okay.
Also thinks Bronwyn should be, because who knows, you could be next. And you might want to find out how this is happening.
Yeah, what if he's some horror with a thing for good-looking women?
So Ogstreth and Bronwyn definitely. Orsino, are you also going with them, or heading somewhere else, or doing something else?
Yes, the woman being stabbed multiple times is definitely the more interesting of the two. I mean, it's just a fire. I mean,
Oh, but unless it was sorcerer's fire.
yeah. Please let it not be a sorcerer. Oh,
It is
And
strange that he would bring that up as like, oh, this woman was stabbed to death by her own knives multiple times, and there was a fire.
yeah.
No, well,
I
he
just wanna
was
say, yeah.
killed by being set on fire in the middle of a warehouse that nothing else probably got burnt at. That's what I was reading from how he said.
We will see when you arrive on scene. Falk, are you going with them or somewhere else?
Folk would, I mean, he would be happy to go with them. He's not averse to splitting up the group, though. I mean, if
should.
you know, he will mention, you know, if you know, at least for the initial perusal, you know, if I'd be happy to go with somebody to the grain warehouse, which you all think
Yeah,
is
we should.
ordinary.
We should go to 4 people is a lot to paw through any place. You know, and some people are put off by crowds and they clam up. So maybe we should break 2 and 2.
So how is the pairing getting split then? Because I love it when the party splits up, and I really am excited to see how this pairing is going to be here.
Yeah.
Falk, where are you going?
Well, so many people were thinking that the grain warehouse was uninteresting. I think it's probably going to be a lot more interesting than what they think. I mean, certainly Teldy thinks it's pretty interesting. I mean, people do burn, but this must have something more behind it than just a kind of typical roasting.
Absolutely. Ogstreth, are you in the mood for stabbing or burning?
Who can choose? I mean, I was definitely more interested in the stabbing, but if folk explains it that way, like, well, there's gotta be something really weird in this mundane one, I could go there if we're trying to do 2 and 2. So Ogstreth is mystery flexible.
Okay. Brandon, what about Bronwyn? Where does she want to go?
I want to look up and see who got stabbed.
Okay.
You
Still
know,
on.
because I know a lot of them. And it'd be a shame if it was, you know, if it was Matilda.
So still on stab duty. And Orsino?
yeah. Just to split it 2 and 2. I'll go with Bronwyn.
Okay.
I mean,
So Orsino and Bronwyn on the stabbing, Folk and Ogstreth on the burning. Okay. Let us start. And basically the way this is, that we're going to do this is we kind of get to the scene. I'm going to set up the scene, and then you'll have a chance to kind of describe what it is you might be looking for. We have some clues that are set here based on different skills. We'll kind of take a look at that, kind of do a couple of checks in with people before we kind of swap scenes around is the general goal of this. So
Lowell, sorry,
yeah.
I may have missed it. Did you just say what drives are?
So drives, I believe that you can mark drives for a benefit, but it has been a while. Real quick, this book has an index, unlike the Fading Suns book.
Indexless book.
Casting shade on the suns.
Yeah, I just ran Fading Suns last month, And each time I was reminded how much I hated that. So you can invoke each of your drives once per adventure to get +1 on a single die roll.
All right.
Or if you have a 0 in a general ability, you can also mark it to get to use that general ability. So let's start. Orsino, Bronwyn, you travel through the city. Like, what do you think is the challenge, Bronwyn? Like that you like hit physical or culture or something, like the block that kind of slows down your travel over to where this murder took place in this seedy apartment?
It's market day in the big public square. And so it should be an easy, shortcut through the middle has as many tents and tables as can fit and still allow the crowd to shove its way past.
Yeah. They've got some weight restrictions on the bridges, but people ignore those on market days. There's a lot of tension over that. Orsino, how do you get the pair of you through this obstacle without it taking forever?
Orsino's pretty much kind of like a bull in a china shop. So, and he's barrel chested and pretty large. So, I mean, if somebody's of definitely lower social status than he is, he just, shoves them to the side as he walks through the crowd.
Just a pure brute force way with
Yeah.
some splashing as you make your way along. The two of you will arrive.
I imagine Bronwyn like catching one of them that before he bangs himself on something and going, sorry about that. He's enthusiastic.
The two of you will arrive at this pretty seedy apartment building. It looks like it used to be a couple of stories taller, but those have sunk down. They've built up from there. And you make your way up a set of stairs until you reach the landlord, who's kind of straightening some things out, who'll introduce themselves as Gatilka, and they will say, when you kind of ask them, they say, the mercenary woman, the sellsword. Her name was Zara. She's an outlander. No offense. But
Untaken?
oh yeah. But I don't know much about her. She came to Eversink a couple of years ago. She wasn't a nice person. From what I knew, she had a job as muscle for someone very powerful and important. She's the kind of person who would go and break limbs, bust heads, you know what I mean? But
Oh yeah.
She never had any fear of getting arrested, and she did her work. But she paid on time, so that counts in her favor. And she drank a lot, so that was easy to handle.
You're a brave man to speak ill of a dead outlander who probably doesn't have a funerary statue. I mean, her ghost could be just standing right behind you, listening to everything you say.
I assume somebody took care of that. I did. I assume the watch would take care of that, right?
That's a lot of assumptions.
Are you sure you didn't keep anything from her place?
No. That I don't mess with the objects of the dead. I'll show you in to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And you will see him take you upstairs into this room. You can see that the apartment interior items are smashed, and it does look like the body hasn't been removed. The door has been kicked in, but it looks like somebody shut the door and has basically left the scene untouched for you. So let's start with Orsino. What do you do here? What's your approach to investigating here? What are you looking for?
I'm going to see exactly how many blades there were. And see if there's any other weapons that were around that weren't used.
Okay, let me start with Orsino here first. Okay.
I'm just saying, I grab you by your belt and go, let me just have a really solid look at it for a sec. And then I scan the place and I go, okay.
Are you looking for something particular?
Yeah, I'm looking, if there was a fight here, I want to see if I can figure out how many.
Okay.
And who being I have tactics of death.
Yeah.
And I'll spend on that.
Okay. So I'll give you a 1 point spend on tactics of death, and kind of here is what you'll pick up from that. And I'm going to come to Orsino and see
Please.
what, yeah. So you can see as you look around here that the items in the apartment are smashed. It looks like there was definitely a fight. She definitely put up a fight against her opponent. The thing is, you walk around here and kind of look at her boots and the blood here. You don't see any other footprints but her own. You will note that her body is covered with punctures. And she's also got abrasions around her neck and arms as if something was restraining her. It actually looks like, as you kind of looking around for other, on one of the roof beams that kind of hold up here, there's a big splatter of blood up there. Like somebody took a mop, dipped it in blood and splashed it up there. And you're like, you have no idea how that happened. Orsino, what is it that you are looking for as you look around the room?
I'm trying to see if there's any signs of, I don't know. I try to feel the room, see if there's any type of that creepy feeling that you get when there might be corruption present or anything like that. See if there's any sort of sense of sorcery.
Interesting. And that if you have spirit sight?
Yep.
Okay. One of the things that you will note here is that there isn't a ghost. You will see and tell that someone has already created a funerary statue for her. It's unclear who, but it's probably the same person who found the body, given the timetable here. But otherwise, you don't see anything that speaks of like the action of sorcery or a spell or the sniff of that kind of corruption. Does that seem like a fair answer?
Yeah, and does that require a spend, or do I get that just for having spirit sight?
I think that one just requires spirit sight, because
Okay.
that's just very basic information you get from that.
No problem.
Let
okay.
me cut to the other pair, and we will come to our two church fellows, as it turns out, Ogstreth and Falk. Together they fight crime, and you will arrive at this grain warehouse. And it looks like there's still some smoke kind of hanging in the air above it. But it's a little surprising. Grain warehouses are notoriously flammable. Just given the amount of dust, particulates, and stuff that get in the air, that fires can cause a real problem there. But you will arrive and kind of look around. It looks like the downstairs is still an active, like, grain warehouse. They're still doing things. And it does look like there's a foreman kind of directing people. It looks like you could talk to him, or you could try and slip by him and just go on upstairs.
So the fire was upstairs.
Yeah, it looks like it's some
and
kind of
the
like
downstairs is-
on the definitely when you kind of look in downstairs, it doesn't look like there's any fire damage or anything down here. Definitely something upstairs.
Well,
Do
apprentice.
you think we should, I mean, that guy over there looks like he's in charge, like he's some type of foreman. Should we ask him, or do you think, I mean, he was worried about being discreet with this.
A wise point. Perhaps we should slip by unnoticed.
Yeah, we can talk to him on the way out but yeah, I like, looking at, it certainly looks like the burning happened up on that upper floor. Sliding up there and just getting an initial perusal would be useful.
And if it's as unusual an affair as you think it might be, we cannot know if we can trust the words of this foreman or not.
So, which of you wants to make the stealth roll? I think it's difficulty 3, but if you're making the roll for both people, it'd be a difficulty 4 because that's called piggybacking.
Would you have stealth? So I feel like you've got a better shot at it than I do.
Yeah, I do have stealth. Yep.
You can roll flat, or you can make a spend from stealth.
Okay, and when you spend from stealth, like I have 3 points.
Yeah.
Is each point like a +1 or?
Exactly.
And it's a difficulty.
To get both of you up there is going to be a difficulty 4.
Okay. I'll spend 2 stealth.
Okay. Go big or go home. I like it.
All right. And I'll roll and so should I just go in and do that as a +2 modifier? On
Yeah,
this?
D6 + 2.
All right. Yep. So I rolled a 5. So.
Oh yeah. So the warehouse is busy, and you two are able to kind of slide up over to an area. You do see that it doesn't look like anything has been particularly put as a block to keep people from going up there. There's a door going in that you guess would be normally locked. It's not locked right now, but you will open it and kind of head up. Immediately you're hit by this acrid smell of fire and chemicals, like unnatural kind of scent like that, and like maybe some other weird smells like vinegar up here as you come in. And you will see that up here are shelves that are off to the sides, and there are bottles in those shelves. And you can see that it looks like there's some workspace and work tables around. This is clearly not part of the granary itself, but maybe a private rented office of some kind or workshop of some kind. And you'll definitely see a body that is, there's probably the top of the skull left, and maybe most of the arms, and maybe from the like lower midsection down are still there, but then that whole sort of main torso and lower part of the jaw there, that's all burnt out. Black scorch, black burnt out body, and just weird and horrible.
And is it only the body that's burnt, or other than-
The floor below it is marked, but the fire hasn't spread from there.
Well, you were right that this might be more interesting than a simple stabbing. Certainly smellier as well.
Yeah, and this, well, it's in a granary warehouse, but this is not part of what we would expect in a granary. You know, he says as he, you know, Falk will take some steps towards the shelves with the bottles and kind of see, do they have labels? He'll maybe kind of pick some up to kind of look at them. What Oxtrith, have you ever seen stuff like this before?
Well, let's start with you. Do you have any leechcraft?
Leechcraft.
Is that one of your?
Don't believe you do,
No.
but I do if you do show me the bottle.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, yeah, not having that, I think I would be a little baffled. I'm just kind of grasping to see if there's any labeling and stuff. But yeah, definitely calling back to Oxtrith. Like, if you seen such things as this?
So Oxtrith, let's start with you. You will, if you go over and kind of take a look through there, you will look and see that by the body there are a bunch of empty vials. But on these shelves are more of them. It looks like a lot of them are empty, but there's also some boxes with some things. And you can see that the labels on all of these vials are for deadly poisons. They're empty. But they've got these labels on them, and it almost looks like somebody is preparing these vials and labeling them for sale.
They're labeled as poisons?
Yeah.
Okay. But this wouldn't cause a fire. They're empty by the body. Or actually, are any of them flammable?
I think here's the other sort of, if you want to make a leechcraft spend here.
Sure.
And then I'm going to come to Falk. I think as you kind of move over and look at the vials by the body, I think you'll be able to tell that that fire, somebody must have poured a bunch of these things down that person's throat. At like maybe 9 different potions, poisons, chemicals. And based on your leechcraft knowledge, it looks to you like those miscability together in his stomach and ignited.
That's nasty.
Yeah. You can see that the vials have a weird, like, dried fluid on the outside that actually smells like blood mixed with vinegar.
Just the open ones or all of them?
The ones that have been opened and poured down the throat.
Okay.
Falk, what are you looking for? What are you trying to find here?
Well, I think it becomes apparent to Falk that 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 the looking at the bottles is more his line. I think Falk will take some steps to the body and look down at the body. I think he will be looking around to see if there are any funerary statues in the area, or if this might be somebody who maybe has a ghost lingering about.
I think you're looking around, and what do you think it looks like when you activate your spirit sight?
What it looks like to me is I think it looks like a fog is rising up from the floor, and there's like shimmering, glimmering things that I know are not part of the normal world, but I start to, I think, pick up auras and things like that glimmering in the kind of spirit fog that I see.
And I think you're startled as you kind of look over and you see the ghost, like knees kind of pulled up underneath one of these tables. Looks like maybe a 40-year-old guy. You can kind of see through him. And you can see this ghost is wide-eyed, babbling, that sort of insanity. And you see that he is just pulling at his kind of own intestines and internal organs, like those kind of are open on his ghostly body, and he's kind of like both pulling them and trying to put them back into him, and he is just, his mouth is just kind of as that's going on. What do you do?
I approach him looking stern, but I think also calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I can help you, but you need to gain control and speak.
Do you want to try a sway roll to kind of restore his morale and try to bring him around?
Yeah, I think that because it sounds like with his babbling that he's not going to be. Yeah, I mean, it would be sway. I was also thinking I have the command, but I think the command could be too.
And I don't think he's sensate enough for that kind of thing. If you had
Yeah.
trustworthy
Yeah.
would be appropriate.
Yeah, I don't have that, but yeah, maybe sway.
How much do you want to spend on your sway to try and bring this ghost around?
Is this like to roll a 4? Is this going to be?
I think a 4 is the minimum, and the higher that you roll, the more sensate he's going to be.
I think I'll spend 2 on this one. I mean, this seems pretty
Yeah.
juicy. Yeah.
Let's have you roll.
All right. So +2. And what did I do? I added another D. Should I just roll it again? I put
Sure.
another D6 in there. All right. So let me. All right, so it's another 5 + 2.
Okay.
So 7.
That's a 7. That's pretty good. So you will talk to him. Oxtreth, do you have spirit sight?
I do not.
So I think you will see Falk kind of bend down and start talking to the air. Do you think that you know what that means? It like do you have a sense of what it looks like when people talk to ghosts?
I don't think I do know exactly what's going on. I just know this is something that I shouldn't interrupt. Just kind of like, oh, Fox got something going on. I'm just going to pretend to be studying this vial some more.
I think you're talking to him. You're getting him to focus, and you get him to be more solid and less kind of wild-eyed there. We'll come back to you questioning him in just a second. Let's cut back to the other area, to our stabbing site. Bronwyn, let's come back to you. What are you investigating here?
Well, after a glance at the ceiling beams to see if I can if I can tell if this is her blood or something else's blood, I'm going to go around and just look through her personal effects.
Okay.
See if has she been, is she under a contract that she might actually have it? If she's been recently hired, not under contract, she'll have some money here. And then just is it true that she was really stabbed with so many of her own damn weapons?
Well, so you're checking for, let's start with this, looking for records or documents or any kind of hidden monies or things like that to start.
Yeah, just some clue as to what she was, what was going on with her here.
You can tell from the kind of general looking around that she did pretty well for herself. Like there are some nice baubles here. This is not someone who is down necessarily on their luck. Eventually you'll find that sort of hidden under a drawer is a notebook. And you kind of peel that open and look at it. It's clearly in a code, like a thieves code, that kind of thing. Maybe somebody with skullduggery might be able to read it, or somebody from the Thieves Guild. But I think the basic implications that you can pick up is, there are numbers and there are coded names, and this definitely looks like someone's extortion and collection notebook. Like this is their tracking accounts ledger for that, which kind of goes with what you already knew. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I'd say to Orsino, I don't know, maybe this will give a clue to somebody who can read it if monster didn't just show up here, right? Probably somebody who was sent after him. The question is why.
True, and I might know a guy who can decipher it. It's got to be a cant of some sort written.
Yeah, here, toss you the book.
Yeah.
It's all chicken scratchings to me.
Yeah.
Orsino,
we?
what are you looking for?
Well, since there's no sign of sorcery, and I know we can find a thief or something to read us what's in the book. I'm wondering if there's a more mundane part of it. I'm looking to see if there's any signs of any trespass anywhere else. I have felonious intent, which is kind of like, instead of looking at the fight, I'm looking to see if there's anybody, I don't know, broke in and covered it up or something.
Oh, okay. So I think the sort of the key things. Let's start from, if you're kind of checking out the scene. Are you checking the body? Are you checking the windows? What's your focus here?
Yeah, I'm checking the room, the entry and exits of the room to see if there's any.
It definitely looks like that the window is closed and locked. But you will notice that there is blood smeared there, a patch kind of coating along it. And you'll pick up this faint smell of vinegar on that. That seems unusual there. And if you kind of look the weapons, you haven't really checked the body, but the weapons themselves also seem to have that kind of coating on them of blood, and maybe and not like a weird vinegary smell.
Could it be poison? I mean,
I think you have enough felonious intent to know that that's not poison. It's just an unusual vinegar.
I don't know any monsters that smell like vinegar.
No. Do the strangle marks look like rope? Rope's has pretty characteristic.
You have tactics of death, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Why don't you make a spend on that?
You got it.
You can tell that whatever bound it wasn't a cable, wasn't rope. It wasn't like anything you've seen. One of the things I think you will note is that she is dead. Like, and you can't quite, I mean, you don't have leechcraft, right?
Nope.
So like you're like, look at the body, there's some weird marks on it and stuff. It's hard to kind of tell. I think the one thing that you will be able to tell tactic of death is like she was stabbed with all of her favorite weapons, like pulled out from the sideboards, the sheaths, all of that kind of thing. And someone has taken her like enforcer's blackjack and shoved that down her throat. Whoever did this wanted to send a message. This isn't just like a standard killing. This is a killing intended to say something.
Yeah, look at this.
Hmm.
So yeah, not only, I mean, it tells us not only were they trying to send a message, but this wasn't a thing. Or if it was, it was something that can, that can float or climb the walls.
Yeah. Thinking if we can,
I'm betting that the blood that's up high isn't hers, and she managed to lash back at it. But of course, something kept her from seeing it or fighting it.
Oh, she had a
Effectively.
struggle. I mean, that was clearly a fight.
Yeah, there was a fight, but maybe it just got in one good shot. At first, it crippled her, and then finished her off, and she landed a couple of blows before she went down.
yeah, I
But
think we might, I think we might need to find out who she was working for, and if we can.
What's that funky smell?
It's vinegar of some sort.
I'm going to cut from you two back over to another place where there's a horrible smell. Ogstreth, while your friend is having this conversation with the air, are you looking around at other things, or are you kind of watching to see what's going on there first?
Yeah, I think I gotta, like, I'm sort of eavesdropping. Like,
Sure.
Not that Folk is necessarily trying to be clandestine about it, but like I'm making the motions of looking around at the area, but mostly listening in.
Okay. Well, let's do that conversation. What are you saying to this ghost?
I say you need to get control.
Uh-huh.
I can help, but you need to explain what has happened.
She killed me.
Do you remember who you are?
My name is Belto. Belto, that's my name. That is how I'm called.
And what were you doing here, Velto?
I was just working. And she's- and she killed me.
And
Like this, kind of holds up his like intestines in his ghost hands.
and how did she do that?
She choked me. She choked me. And he kind of picks up those organs and kind of puts them to his neck. She choked me. And then she, like, as I was laying there, she with the horrible things that she picked up, that she poured them all down my throat. And I had to watch as my body burned.
And what did she look like? Who was she?
It was a head. I saw in the light the red hair. And she had red hair. And then there was her head. And then there was this. And he kind of holds up the intestines.
And did you know who she was?
No, I've never seen anything like that. I once I saw the floating head and the stuff below it, how?
And are these your bottles? Is that what your work was?
Don't talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about that. Not supposed to talk about it. Kind of gets quiet, like clearly that's been ingrained in him in his life, and he's very reluctant to talk about that. Falk, how much of this do you relay to Ogstreth?
I think, at this point, I think Falk thinks he's gotten pretty good information about what has happened. And so he'll break off and relay that to Ogstreth. But he will say, Ogstreth, you need to promise me that you will not let other people know about this conversation that I've had with Balto.
Of course, friends keep friends' secrets. And lock eyes on that one, just as like and when you find out some of mine, I'm sure.
Yeah, but this was obviously not a, well, it certainly wasn't a granary fire. And it also, I think there are layers to this, but Balto was obviously involved in manufacturing or distributing this stuff, but then, I mean, getting involved in whatever he was involved with obviously made enemies. And we have now a red-haired woman head, a woman with a red hair that
Yes,
we need to.
women have heads. I do know that.
And I don't think we're looking for Bronwyn. This is not.
She was my first suspect, I must admit. But whoever killed Balto could have done it in any number of ways. I think you're right. This is clearly related to whatever manufacturing operation they have here. Who would want to buy this stuff? Where's the fun in that? You have to brew your own.
Yeah. Well, it would, it might be interesting to find out who was kind of operating this this business.
And just quick out of character, was
Yeah.
your take that it was a floating head? Because that's what
That's kind of what Balto was
Okay, that's what I was
seeming
getting
to
from.
suggest, yes.
Do you describe the rest, the thing about the organs dangling from the head?
Yeah, I think I described that, and I'll also describe what Balto looked like. He was a mess. He's yeah, with his intestines coming out.
So it's very interesting to get his viewpoint on his death, but I imagine it must be a bit subjective. Perhaps there's another observer we could question. And I'm looking around for any kind of statue that might be around here that would have been there at the time of the murder.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, let's say he probably has, there are funerary statues. Maybe he has a little like family shrine where there are those. What do you want to do?
I have, as a sorceress sphere of statuary, not just for the tongue twister effect. I would like to ask the statue what it saw and compare notes.
Okay. Then I think what we can do is we can read this perhaps as you using like a version of Forgotten Lore here.
Okay.
Like asking the statue. And what does that look like when you do that?
I feel like I would like for folk to be able to see
Okay.
what it is. And it is literally just, I'm looking around and saying, so what of it? Is what Balto said accurate to the statue? And it's like literally holding a conversation with an animate statue.
And the statue will kind of shiver and the mouth will open. Yes. An old thing. It came. It floated. It went through and slid through the floorboards and then came through here. It is a Pengalan.
See Harry nodding on that. Like, yep. And I would know what that is in character.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
once that name is like you kind of have Forgotten Lore, so I think you get they are a monstrosity that you've heard of in folk tales. They are a human woman who can separate their head and organs at night and fly, trailing viscera. They look for sin and blood to drink. They twinkle like fireflies when they go around. And the thing that you will know is that in order to return back to their bodies, they have to soak in vinegar to shrink their organs down so they can slide back into their bodies.
That is a good thing for me to know.
Yeah.
I remember one of these from L5R way back.
Oh, yeah. Tomb of Yuchiban has this as a key component. But yeah, the statue go, that's what it is.
Thanks, statue.
You're welcome.
Ask your brethren throughout the city if they can track where she went.
That will take more power than you have right now, little man, to do.
Statue is bad now. Pick it up and smash it on the floor. I do not put up with it.
I think it's at that point that we kind of do the parallel cuts to both scenes. We're going to kind of montage back and forth. And I think that you, Falk, and Ogstrath will hear stomping coming up the steps, and this door comes open, and you see this figure with a couple of heavies come up. They've got blades on, and they look at you two, and they're like, "What the F are you doing here?" and they draw blades, and they look like they have ill intent. And I think at that same moment, Orsino, Bronwyn, you hear a motion in the hall outside this apartment. The door comes open, and you will see three figures with masks in the loosest sense. They have bandanas, essentially, and they see people in here, and they also draw blades. And that is where we're going to start out next time in medias res with that. Sound okay?
You bet.
I would like to do a quick stars and wishes, things you particularly liked for character stuff or play, whatever. But then wishes particularly what you would like to see for your character. Like, what are the kinds of scenes you want to see either next time or the coming up after that, to kind of get maybe a wish list of things, if you all don't mind. Robbie, can I ask you to start?
This was a lot of fun. And thank you for running this. I love the kind of sword and sorcery genre, and you know, this has been a kind of interesting game to get into. I must say, going into this, I was like, okay, you know, these seem like very different types of characters. You have a thief and a sentinel types, and the sorcerer, and how is that all going to work together? But I think a big star for me is how it all did kind of work together, and I really did. I know sometimes groups are loath to split up the party, but I think that was a lot of fun. I like the kind of, like, you know, going back between the two pairs, and that kind of interaction between Ogstreth and Folk was kind of fun to see, and their kind of weird way in which they're very different personalities, but they in that scene we had like similar kind of, you know, abilities, you know, that were kind of going on in that investigation, which was a lot of fun.
Any wishes you want to point to?
I don't know anything specific right
Okay.
now. I really
Sure.
like the mystery, though. I like the mystery that's developing here and where exactly that's gonna lead us. So
Awesome. Brandon.
Yes, I love this genre. I've had to touch on it in a very different kind of game. It's fun to revisit it in a different way. I love the opportunities for character interaction, and I know we had to get started on the mysteries too. So, but even so, everybody here is coming from such a different viewpoint, and I really look forward to the chance to kind of swap ideas and banter, as well as do investigation. Besides a good scrap, which I know we're going to get, my wish would be for just some meaningful human interaction.
Okay.
With, you know, with the people in the town.
Yeah, let's see about getting some. We'll see kind of what your network of NPCs are. Maybe get some of those people onto the table next time. Both contacts and then just like everyday life stuff. Okay.
And you know, maybe the rumors about Bronwyn are true.
Ooh.
I noticed there's a place called the Goddess, the Goddess Isle,
yeah,
which she visits periodically, just because she thinks she should.
like
it's like, that's a good thing to do, right? To visit the Isle of the Goddess and put a few coins in the fountain. But maybe there's another reason she does it and she has just forgotten.
Okay. I like it. And Keith, stars, wishes?
Yes, stars wise, I just love the setup. It's so evocative from the stuff that the game brought, to the setup of the mysteries, to the things that we each individually brought to the characters. It's like so sword and sorcery, all the stuff that I was hoping for. I'm like, oh, that reminds me of this and that and the other thing. So it's just a great setting to kind of just roll around, and like whatever we're doing is fun. As far as wishes, character wise, I definitely would like to see Ogden get in over his head magic wise.
Okay.
You know, big swing, maybe a big hit, probably a big miss, and dealing with the ramification of that. And would love to see some of the bigger machinations of the city, the church, the guilds, the Triskadane and things like that, kind of showing that we're not as big and bad as you might think we are as being the protagonists here.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. And then Harry.
I think it's stars all around. Everybody did a good job of making a really good character right out of the gate. I think these characters are set up to have some pretty interesting interactions going down the road. Big star Lowell for bringing in a Panaglin. I haven't seen one in 20 years.
Yeah.
so that was amazing. I think for wishes would be I can't wait to see each of our characters' enemies start to make their approaches in how they're going to come into the investigations, because they're just going to get make everything all messy and stuff. So I just can't wait to see that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I do want to mention is next time Alexi will be joining us. He's going to be in here as a 5th player for session 2 and 4. Just because of his schedule, and there was kind of a weirdness with the signups. So he'll be that. I will get with him between now and next week to have him have his character head. We'll try to make bringing him in pretty quick. I may throw him into one of the fight scenes, just kind of showing up so that we can kind of expand that. But definitely next time we're going to kind of start out by exploring those combat rules, so you can kind of get a taste for that, is a chance to like see how that works. If you have a chance, do take a look at that cheat sheet that I put the link to in the safety and resources tab. It's 2 pages, and it has basically everything you need to know about combat and how that works, and some other skill stuff. I tried to boil it down pretty well. Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed this. I love these characters already. I really looking forward to seeing where this goes. I am going to stop the recording.